What's going on, everyone? It's Ben with YGO from Zero, back with another SDYK format video. Today we got a duel between this sort of Conga-ing aggro deck and the Worm Controller reaction deck that I've been playing a bunch of lately. I just can't get enough of the Worm Control deck. I think it's a really fun deck. I just love playing it, so I'll be playing that again in this video today. But this deck is also pretty cool, and this actually has a pretty good matchup against the Worm Control deck, in my opinion. So let's just dive into it right away. To start, the general purpose of this deck is basically to overwhelm your opponent with just 4-star beaters. The idea is that you'll always have one of these in hand, so if your opponent does remove one of your monsters, you'll just be able to summon out another to replace it. And that if they don't have removal, you can keep on summoning monsters to put on major offensive pressure. And also that with reinforcements in play, it doesn't really matter if you're playing a 1600 beater or an 1800 beater, because reinforcements will let them all get over 2k defenders, will let them get over other beaters like Login. So it's just good to have this sort of endless conga line of monsters coming out onto the field and putting tons of offensive pressure on your opponent. So this is a very fun deck. Let's dive in to the specific card breakdown. So the monsters are very simple. It's just 3 Login, the level 4 beater with the highest attack, 3 Battle Ox and 3 Neo, the 2 level 4 beaters with the next highest attack, and then 3 Great White and Rogue Doll. Now, there are other 1600 attack beaters here. We just picked 2 of them. And honestly, I don't really think there's much of a difference if you pick like Great Whites and Rogue Dolls over like Ryukishin Powards and Man-Eating Treasure Chests, which are the other monsters with 1600 attack in the format. I do think that Great White is decent to have just in case you go up against a tribal strategy that is trying to leverage the fact that less decks are playing things like Great White and use it like Umi or something like that. I think those decks are pretty bad, so it's unlikely you'll come up against them. But those matchups do come up, and it's a lot more common, in quotation marks, to face that over something like a Yami tribal deck, which is just terrible. So that's why there's 3 Great White here, and then the Rogue Doll could be really any of the Rogue Doll, Ryukishin, Man-Eating Treasure Chest monsters, because they all get the boost from Yami, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think that'll ever come up, though, and you can just fill these with whichever one you think is best. Moving on to the spells, we have all the spells here that are just the most aggressive. So we've got 3 Change of Heart, which can take your opponent's monster, clear the way for your monster to attack in, and also enable you to attack with their monster. We have 3 Monster Reborn, bring a monster back from the graveyard to attack in. We have 3 Pot of Greed, which is just an incredible card all around. Must play at 3 in every deck pretty much. And we have 3 Raigeki for our main source of removal. Clears away all of our opponent's monsters so that we can get in to attack. Now, a bit of an interesting thing here is that we're not actually playing Dark Hole in the main deck. Instead, we're playing Stop Defense. The reason for this is that Stop Defense doesn't clear away your own board presence and can be useful in cases where your opponent is just hiding behind a 2k defender and you have no way to remove it without removing your own monsters. So that's why Stop Defense is in here over Dark Hole. I personally prefer playing Dark Hole in the deck over the Stop Defense, just because I think it comes up in more cases. And also, I think that generally you don't have to worry about your board being full of monsters, because your opponent has so much removal that they're likely to remove monsters from your field at some point anyways. So I think Dark Hole is a fine inclusion into the deck over Stop Defense, but I also think Stop Defense is a super heads-up card to use, just knowing what this deck is trying to do and knowing what its strengths and weaknesses are. So I think that either choice is good. I don't necessarily know which choice is better. I think that that would come with this format just being thoroughly tested even more. But there just aren't enough people who play it to really make that sort of judgment call here. So my friend who came up with this deck is playing the 2-stop defense, and that is what you'll see in our games. I personally would play Dark Hole, but I think either is good. And then moving on to the traps, we're keeping up the theme of aggression with 3 reinforcements. With these reinforcements, this basically enables your 1600 beaters to be just as effective as an 1800 beater in most cases. So they're very good. They can make your monsters get over 2k defenders, which is very nice. And they're often likely to be live since you're playing so many monsters that can benefit from it. We also have 3 Trap Hole. Trap Hole is just great at clearing your opponent's monsters away, enabling you to attack in. Very good card here. We have 3 Woboku. Honestly, should be a 3 of in any deck, I think. It's just that good. You know, protects your own life points, protects your monsters. It's just incredibly good. And then lastly, we have 2 Ultimate Offering. Now, Ultimate Offering is mainly here for offensive reasons, as you can summon out a lot of your beaters in one turn and just attack in for a lot of damage. So it's mainly here for that, but it can also be used defensively in this deck. Oftentimes your opponent's going to be attacking with a monster that doesn't get over something like Lodge-In or Battle Ox, and so if you summon one out on your opponent's turn with Ultimate Offering, you can protect your life points as long as they don't have something like Trap Hole. So Ultimate Offering can be used both offensively and defensively in this deck, which is pretty good. For the side deck, I'm not sure if this is the exact side deck that they were playing, but I think this is a pretty good side deck for this deck. Firstly, we have, of course, the Exodia Hate and Card Destruction, and the more general Stall Hate in the 3 D-Spell, 3 Remove Trap. These D-Spells remove Swords Revealing Light, which you'll notice we're not playing because it doesn't really fit into our more aggressive strategy. But a lot of the time, a lot of other decks are going to be playing it, and against stall decks especially, you just want a card that can get rid of swords. So that's why we've got these D-Spell here. The Remove Trap are solely the Ultimate Offering, as that's a great card for stall decks and also the backbone of Worm Control. So Remove Trap is a very good card for those matchups. And then we also have 3 Dark Hole in the side. Against the mirror match, this is pretty good. Against decks that can just swarm the field with monsters that stay on the board, it's a pretty good card. It's also very good against Tribute Aggro, as they'll likely clear your board to bring out a Summoned Skull, so you can get rid of that with a Dark Hole. I could also see a Fissure going in this slot if you just really want to preserve your board presence and you want to deal with things like Tribute Aggro. Fissure is a great option for that, as they'll likely have turns where they change of heart your monster, Tribute offers Summoned Skull, and that's the only monster they have on their field. So Fissure can take care of that Summoned Skull in most cases without depriving you of a monster if you still have one. I think Dark Hole is just better though, so that's why it's here instead of Fissure. And then lastly, we have 3 Wicked Worm Beasts. I think this is a good card just in matches that are also playing Wicked Worm Beast, just enabling you to also play that game of having monsters that dodge your opponent's removal. And I honestly think Wicked Worm is good in this sort of deck because you also have the backup of monsters that stick on the field and can get over 2k defenders, and you have the Ultimate Offerings. So Wicked Worm Beast can just sort of be that extra 1400 points of damage every turn, which is very nice. But anyways, this is the deck. I've already covered Worm Control a lot on this channel, so I'm not going to go into a deck profile for that. But if you're unfamiliar with that, you can check out my other videos, or just see it in action during the games. So let's dive right into those. Okay, we got a duel against duck-based Pill here, and we're playing Worm Control. They're playing Conga-ing Aggro. Let's dive into the game, see how it plays out. So we are going first here. This opening hand is looking not the worst, but honestly not very good. We really want to see like an ultimate offering in the opening hand just to start things off with our being able to bring out defenders very easily. But this isn't the worst hand, so let's see what we do with it. We just set to pass. I think this is the right choice. We're trying to avoid our opponent's removal, so we just set 2. We've got the trap hole to protect against something like a Login if they bring that out. If they're able to make a big damage push somehow, we've got the Woboku. So I think this is pretty good. They're going to Pot of Greed, which is pretty nice, especially when they draw into another Pot of Greed. So it's very good. They'll bring out a Neo, and we will trap hole here just because our Battle Ox can't actually get over the Neo. So we figure it's good to be aggressive with the trap hole. So we clear their monster. They set to pass back to us. And thank goodness we drew the ultimate offering. So this will enable us to bring out a man-eater bug on their turn and maybe clear one of their monsters with it. But at least to protect our life points, it's very good to have. We're going to bring out a Battle Ox and attack in. They're going to take that damage. We're going to set the ultimate offering and pass back to them. Feeling pretty good about this. They're going to bring out the Login, which is pretty rough for us. But they will be able to get over our Battle Ox and then just pass back to us. We drew Raigeki, which we could use here, but there's no real point to using it now as we don't really have an aggressive push to follow it up with, and we can always just set Man-Eater Bug when they attack with the Login. So they're just going to attack with the Login. We will fire off the ultimate offering, set the Man-Eater Bug, and they're going to attack into it, which probably means that they have a reinforcements to get over something like a Wall of Illusion. But let's see. It's just Man-Eater Bug. So if they do have reinforcements, they're not going to use it here. And we are able to get rid of their Login, which is pretty nice. They're going to set another and pass back to us. We draw an ultimate offering, which is unfortunate. You don't want to draw multiple copies of it, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Since we have double Monster Reborn, we're just going to fire one and bring back their Login, and then just attack in. So they'll take 18. We pass back to them. They're going to Pot of Greed. All 3 Pot of Greeds in one game. Crazy. They're going to Change of Heart or Login and attack in. We don't have anything to stop that damage with Ultimate Offering, but honestly, them using Change of Heart is very nice for us because it signals that they might not have another form of removal, and it looks like they might not even have another monster since they didn't summon it out to attack in with. The end of the turn, they're just going to pass back to us, and we get back our Login, which is very nice, and that is also very nice. We're going to bring out a Wicked Worm Beast. It will be met with a Trap Hole, but we don't really care about that since we have a Monster Reborn. So we're going to get in for a lot of damage here, and this signals that they might not have a Woboku, which actually is the case. They don't have a Woboku, which is extremely, extremely good for us, because this just means that if they can't do anything about this Login next turn, or if they can't do anything about this Wicked Worm Beast, then we just win. So that's very nice. We'll pass back to them. They're going to Raigeki our Login, which is probably for the best for them. And then they're going to Reborn the Login to attack in with. So we'll take the 1800. They'll set one, pass back to us. We drew Change of Heart, which is very good for us. We can summon out Wicked Worm Beast. Oh, well, Wicked Worm Beast got Trap Hold. But that's also a very good sign for us because it means that they don't have a Woboku probably because none of their previous 3 back row were used to Woboku us when we attacked in for 32. So we do lose the Wicked Worm Beast here, but we can feel more confident in our play of Change of Hearting their Login and just attacking in. Now, it won't be lethal because they do have an Ultimate Offering, and they resort to setting a monster with it, which is pretty good for us. We're just going to attack in, and it's a Neo, which is pretty good. We cleared away one of their attackers, and we will just pass back to them, and they'll take back our Login. So they bring out a Great White and try to attack in for a lot of damage here. We're just going to Woboku that because it's more damage than we want to take. And unfortunately, we don't have a monster to close out the game. We do have Raigeki just to clear their monsters, protect our life points a bit, and we have a trap hole to protect against whatever else they may bring out. But it's unfortunate that we don't have a monster. But it looks like they don't have a monster either. They're just going to set one and pass. And we draw a monster. So we will be able to, or we would have been able to get in for damage if they don't have a trap hole. So that will deal with the lodge in. And we'll pass back to them. They're just going to pass back to us. Feeling pretty good about that. And that is a monster that will be able to deal lethal damage. So we will just bring out a Wall of Illusion and attack in. They're forced to use a Woboku on the Wall of Illusion, which is pretty good for us. They'll pass back to them. They'll bring out a Battle Axe. We're just going to trap hole this. Of course, if they attacked in with the Battle Axe, it would return to hand, clearing their field, potentially enabling us to draw a monster and attack in. But we're playing it better safe than sorry. And this way, we at least keep around an attacker to be able to deal a lethal amount of damage next turn, potentially. So we're just going to trap hole that Battle Axe. They're going to change of heart our wall and reveal that they've got nothing here. That stop defense in hand. If only that had been a dark hole, they would have been able to clear the Wall of Illusion. But they cannot. This is just a reinforcements. And this is the end of the game. So that's game one, going to the Worm control deck. And it's kind of a weird showing for the Conga-ing aggro deck because they didn't actually draw that many monsters this game. They only drew 5 monsters. And that's actually the same amount that the Worm control deck drew, which is not standardly how these games go. But let's see if they can get a bit luckier in their draws in game 2. Okay, we got game 2 against the deck. I don't remember if I sided anything in here. I don't think I did because I think Worm Control has a pretty good matchup against Conga-ing aggro. But we'll find out in the game, I guess. So we are going second now. Deck-based Pill chooses to go first, which I think is the right move. Even though, you know, going first you don't get the battle phase, you do get an extra card, which is very nice. So they will just summon out a Lodgin, set 2 and pass, hoping we don't have any removal. Our hand is okay. We don't have the Ultimate Offerings, which is pretty unfortunate. But we do have Wicked Worm Beast and a Change of Heart, which is not bad. So we are going to try and do the aggressive play, summoning out Wicked Worm Beast and then Change of Hearting their Lodgin. They do have a trap hole for that, which is unfortunate. So we'll just set Woboku and Change of Heart and pass. They will Pot of Greed, which is very nice, and they'll just attack in for 18. We'll take that. No use using the Woboku on it because it's just 1800. They're going to set 2 and pass back to us, and thank goodness we drew Ultimate Offering. So we will be able to play the defensive part of our deck, especially since we have Wall of Illusion and Man-Eater Bug. So that's very nice. We're just going to set the Ultimate Offering and pass. They draw, they bring out a Great White, and we will just Ultimate Offering here. Now, we choose to set out the Wall of Illusion. You could argue that setting the Man-Eater Bug would have been better because it could clear their Lodgin. But we choose the Wall of Illusion because we figured that it will be a wall that they can't get over. Unfortunately, we forget that they are likely playing reinforcements in this deck, and they do use the reinforcements, so they will be able to get over the wall and then attack in with Lodgin. So we are forced to pay another 500 and bring out Man-Eater Bug, which only trades 1 for 1. So it's a bit rough, but I guess we did force them to use up the reinforcements, which is nice, especially when we have a Lodgin in hand. So it's not the worst thing in the world. And they're just going to pass back to us. We draw swords, which is very nice. We're just going to activate swords, summon out Lodgin, and attack in. Now, we could have not activated swords here and just saved it for later. But I figure since we're running low on cards, it's better to activate swords because they could potentially make a huge offensive push, and we don't want to necessarily use up our Woboku just yet. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to activate swords, although you could argue that I should have saved it for later. Anyways, we attack in for 18, pass back to them. They're just going to bring out a Battle Ox in attack mode, pass back to us. I feel like this signals that they may have a reinforcements, which would be pretty bad for us if we attacked them with Lodgin. Luckily, we don't have to worry about that. We can just change of heart their Battle Ox and attack in for 35, which we are able to do, which is very nice for us. Signals that they might not have Woboku. Although they do, they're just saving it for when they might take lethal damage. But either way, 3,500, a lot of damage to take. We're very happy about that. We're just going to pass back to them. They're going to bring out Great White and then just pass back to us. Not quite sure why they did that. Maybe they want to bait us into attacking the Great White, or they want to insulate themselves against another change of heart, which is very respectable. But it passes back to us, and we're just able to Raigeki their whole board and get in for 18, which is very nice. They're down to 900, which is a very, very dangerous position to be in for them. They're just going to bring out a Lodge-in, set 1 and pass. That Lodge-in's a pretty good defensive wall, but we are able to change of heart and try and attack in. They will Woboku this just because that's a lethal amount of damage to take. And we're just going to set the Dark Hole and pass. That was a misclick on their part. It's still Woboku. They didn't swap it out for anything. They're going to bring out a Rogue Doll, and they're going to change of heart or Lodge-in. Now this would actually be exactly lethal damage if it connected. But luckily we do have a Woboku. So we are able to get our Lodge-in back. And here we have a choice. We could attack into Rogue Doll with Lodge-in, but that is a bit dangerous for us because, as we saw last turn, this deck can easily assemble lethal damage with just a change of heart, or even if they have like a Fisher and just another monster, they can get in for lethal damage. So what we're actually going to do here is we're going to think about it for a bit and then activate Dark Hole. We do lose our Lodge-in, but we clear both of their monsters, preventing them from being able to potentially get a lethal amount of damage on board next turn. And we do have the Monster Reborn to follow it up with, so we're going to bring out a Wicked Worm Beast and try and attack in, but they do have Woboku. Now, you could argue that we should have gotten like a Lodge-in here, in case they had a Beater in hand to follow up with, but Lodge-in dies to removal. It also can be taken with change of heart. So I figure that Wicked Worm Beast is probably better. Also, if we draw a Dark Hole off the top of our deck, we will be able to use that to clear our opponent's monster and summon out a Wicked Worm Beast to attack in for game, whereas Lodge-in wouldn't necessarily let us do that. So I choose to revive the Wicked Worm Beast here just to get it back in hand, and I pass back to them. They do have a Beater in the form of Battle Ox, and they are able to attack in with that, which is unfortunate for us. We can't really pressure with Wicked Worm Beast here, and we just draw a Wicked Worm Beast here. So nothing much we can do. We just pass back to them. They're going to Pot of Greed, drawing 2. They'll bring out a Rogue Doll and attack in. We are going to Ultimate Offering here to set the Wicked Worm Beast. You know, desperate times call for desperate measures. And they will be able to get in for 1,300, which is pretty rough. We really need a board clear here, and unfortunately that's not it. We can still use it to bring back a Lodge-in and potentially stem the bleeding here a bit. We'll attack into Rogue Doll, but they reveal that they have reinforcements, and that will be the end of the game, because even if we bring out Wicked Worm Beast with Ultimate Offering on their battle phase, they'll still be able to attack in for lethal damage. So they were able to win game 2, and you'll notice that the main reason they won game 2 is because they actually drew into their strategy. They drew a ton of beaters this game and were able to use those to just keep up the offensive pressure, And it sort of shows the strength of this sort of strategy, where if you can just get a constant line of beaters on the board, it can be really tough for other decks to deal with. But now Worm Control has one game to its name. Conga-ing Aggro has one game to its name. Let's see who's going to win the match in Game 3. Okay, we got Game 3 here of Worm Control versus Conga-ing Aggro. Let's dive into it. Again, I don't think that I really sided for this. I think that Worm Control still has a good matchup. Maybe I could have sided in something like Reinforcements to allow our Beat Sticks to play the sort of Reinforcements game where we attack, lodge in into a weaker beater, they activate Reinforcements, we activate Reinforcements of our own, yada yada yada. But I think that Reinforcements just better in their deck. So I did not bring it in here. I don't think. I might have. We'll find out. So we're going to start with a Pot of Greed. Very good. We're just going to bring out a Lodge In, set 2 and pass. 2 Ubokus is very nice to have. Just really punishing our opponent's offensive pushes. They're going to draw 2. They're going to bring out Neo. And they will Change of Heart the Lodge In, which is pretty much exactly what we wanted. Because we can just Uboku this. This is a huge amount of damage we'll be able to prevent. And we'll get our Lodge In back, which is able to potentially attack over the Neo, which is very nice. They're going to set 3, pass back to us. We'll bring out Wicked Worm Beast, hoping to get in for a ton of damage. They do have the Reinforcements, which is somewhat expected, but we forced them to use it now instead of later when they could get over something like a Wall of Illusion. So we're feeling pretty good about that. We're going to activate Swords Revealing Light here to prevent any big offensive pushes, and we'll pass back to them. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We'll draw another Wall of Illusion. If we ever draw Ultimate Offering, we're going to be very happy. But until that point, we'll just summon out a Lodge In and attack in. Oh, or not. They just have a Trap Hole for the Lodge In. Which, honestly, we're pretty happy that we didn't have to run our Wicked Worm Beast into that Trap Hole. So it's not the worst thing in the world that this Lodge In died to it. They're going to pass back to us. Swords get another counter. We're going to set a Trap Hole of our own. And we will actually set the Man-Eater Bug. If we are able to flip up this Man-Eater Bug and take out their Neo on our next turn, we can get in with Man-Eater Bug and Wicked Worm Beast. So we decide to set it. They may have removal, but honestly they'll have to waste the removal on the Man-Eater Bug, which is not a bad trade either. They have Stop Defense, which is honestly extremely good for us. I'm not exactly sure why they're activating Stop Defense now, because normally you'd activate Stop Defense at a point where you can go on the offensive afterwards, but maybe they forgot about our swords, or maybe they just want to see what we're working with, or they have a Fisher. But either way, this will really be bad for them. We are able to use the Man-Eater Bug to clear away the Neo, and they'll just pass back to us. We're going to bring out Wicked Worm Beast and attack in for 1850 damage. Or no, actually 1400, because why attack in with Man-Eater Bug when we can just use a defensive wall? So we'll only attack in for 14. It doesn't really make a huge difference in the long run. So we'll get back the Wicked Worm Beast to hand. They will Monster Reborn our Lodge In, which is pretty nice. If we can ever get that Lodge In to attack into one of our Wall of Illusions, we'll be able to get it back to hand, which is pretty good for us. We draw a Monster Reborn. Not the best, but we'll just set a Wall of Illusion, pass back to them. They are going to Change of Heart our Wall of Illusion. They're going to flip it up to potentially get in more damage. And they're going to attack in. We do have the Uboku to prevent all this damage, which is pretty nice. And they'll pass back to us, which means we get back the wall. We will activate Swords Revealing Light here, because it's pretty bad if they can clear our Wall of Illusion and get in for a ton of damage. So we're going to use swords to potentially draw into something like an Ultimate Offering, which can protect us. But we'll just switch the Wall of Illusion to defense and pass back to them. They'll pass back to us. We'll draw Battle Locks, pass back to them. We'll draw Change of Heart. And now we feel like it's a reasonable time to get a bit aggressive. We are going to summon out the Battle Locks and attack into the Great White. and then we'll just pass back to them. We have the Change of Heart to make a huge offensive push on their next turn, and that's just what we'll do. Change of Heart, their lodge in, attack in with everything, hope for big damage. Unfortunately, they do have Wuboku, and you may argue that we probably shouldn't have put Wall of Illusion in attack mode, since they likely had a Wuboku, and Wall of Illusion could just die to lodge in on their next turn. However, since we have the Trap Hole, we can prevent them from summoning out another monster that could attack into the Wall of Illusion. And this way, the lodge in, if it attacks into the Wall of Illusion, will return to our hand, since it was originally ours. So I don't think this is a bad play. So we'll pass back to them. They will bring out a monster, which we will Trap Hole. We don't want them being able to return a monster to their hand, but they do have Ultimate Offering, so they are able to summon out some more to attack in with, which is unfortunate for us. Now, there is a bit of an illegal play here. It's not either of our faults, we just both forgot about this, but that Battle Ox should return to hand since it attacked the Wall of Illusion. Now, you could argue whether this is actually game determinative in the end, whether them getting back that Battle Ox in hand and thus avoiding removal is actually going to matter in the end of the game. But it's something that we both forgot about, and so really it's neither of our faults. It's just something that happened, and we don't remember it for the rest of the game, so there's nothing we can do about it now. It's just how it unfolded. But we do Ultimate Offering, bring out another Wall of Illusion, and they choose not to attack it just in case, which is the smart thing for them to do, because if it is Wall of Illusion, we get back the lodge in, which is very nice for us. We draw, and we draw a lodge in of our own. We're just going to Dark Hole here, because if they do have some form of removal to get rid of our wall, then that's a lot of damage on board. And we figure this is a pretty good trade here. So we will just Dark Hole their entire board. And this is why them getting the Battle Ox back might have been game determinative, but there's no way to really tell at this point. We're going to bring out Wicked Worm Beast and just attack in for 1400. Oh, but they do have Ultimate Offering to bring out a lodge in. So unfortunately, we can't do anything about that really. They'll attack in for 18. We're going to take it, and we draw Raigeki. Now, we're kind of debating here about whether to actually use Raigeki or not on the lodge-in. In the end, we decide to do it, just get it as aggressive as possible. Bring out Wicked Worm Beast, attack in. They will pay another 500 to bring out Rogue Doll, and they pass back to us. They will attack in with Rogue Doll, and we will just bring out a lodge in here. But unfortunately, they do have Trap Hole, which will enable them to get in with the Rogue Doll. Now you might wonder why they didn't use the Trap Hole in the Wicked Worm Beast. I think it's probably because they had beaters in hand with higher attack than Wicked Worm Beast, so they could always just use them as sort of defensive options with an Ultimate Offering, which makes sense. We draw Wuboku, which is very nice, and we do have Reborn to bring back this lodge in to potentially destroy their Rogue Doll. We will be able to attack in with lodge in and Wicked Worm Beast here to get in for major damage, and we get back the Wicked Worm Beast. They do have Raigeki, and they do have Monster Reborn to bring back the lodge in. But that's not the worst thing in the world for us. We do take 1800, which is pretty bad. We only have one more activation of Ultimate Offering left, and we don't have a removal spell. But we do have a Wuboku to protect against any big pushes. So we'll draw, and we draw a Manier Bug, which is very good. We will be able to use Ultimate Offering to bring this out on their turn. And if they have something like Remove Trap, then we'll be able to use Wuboku to protect ourselves from damage at least. So they're going to Monster Reborn again to bring out Wall of Illusion of all things. I actually think this makes a fair amount of sense, because if you think about it, they're trying to mitigate against Change of Heart potentially here. If we Change of Heart a Lodge-in on this board, then we will have to attack into Wall of Illusion with it, and they'll be able to get it back to hand. Actually, that doesn't really do anything, because we could just summon out Wicked Wormbeast and attack into Wall of Illusion with it. So, I'm not actually sure why they got Wall of Illusion out. It might have just been for fun. Because honestly, with the amount of life points that we have left, I don't think it really matters whether they brought out a Wall of Illusion or a Battle Ox. If they can get in with it, then they'll get in with it and deprive us of life points. But they choose to bring back Wall of Illusion with it. They're going to attack in, and we will use Ultimate Offering here. They're going to continue to attack with the Wall of Illusion, and we will be able to destroy Lodge-in. Have we used up 3? Okay, I've used up 2 Wall of Illusion, which means that they probably had the read that it was potentially Man-Eater Bug. Or just actually, they might have had the read that it was Wicked Wormbeast, since they know that I have that in hand, and they figure I might be desperate. But it's a Man-Eater Bug, so we are able to destroy the Lodge-in. Oh, and that Lodge-in wouldn't have even returned to their hand, because it was ours. So, I don't know. I guess they just did it for fun. And now it passes back to us, and we are able to attack over this Wall of Illusion with Wicked Wormbeast. It does return to our hand, and we are able to pass back to them. Now note, if they hadn't brought back Wall of Illusion, it wouldn't have really mattered, since we would just Dark Hold whatever they brought out. So we would have gotten in for more damage in that case anyways. So I don't think the Wall of Illusion play really mattered in the end. They'll pass back to us. We draw another Ultimate Offering, which is very unfortunate. But we are able to summon out Wicked Wormbeast here and get in for 1400. Now we pass back to them, and things are looking very good for us. We don't have a monster in hand, but we have Waboku to block whatever they bring out. We have Dark Hole to clear whatever they bring out, and Wicked Wormbeast to attack in for lethal amount of damage. So we're feeling pretty good about that. They'll bring out a Rogue Doll and attack in. We will Waboku this, and they'll pass back to us. And we have Monster Reborn just to make it even better. So we Dark Hole their board, and they reveal that they just lose here. They have Raigeki and Stop Defense, both of which have been able to do nothing against us since we've just been summoning out Wicked Wormbeast. And we have Wicked Wormbeast plus Monster Reborn. So we do win the match here. There was a mistake that happened in the middle of the game that may have actually made the difference. You know, who can say? You can go back and analyze it and sort of see for yourself whether that might have happened. I'm honestly not sure whether it would have made a difference or not, because so many things would have changed. But I'm sure that you can tell me in the comments below that I'm completely wrong and that it would have actually changed everything. But either way, I think this was a great showing of both decks. I think especially Game 3 showed off what each of these decks do so well, which is really cool to see. And I think Game 3 was super, super close, and it really could have gone either way, which shows the power of both of these decks. But that's going to do it for this video, and I think that I've covered the sort of aggro decks and their matchups very, very well over the course of the last couple of videos. So I think I'm going to be trying to show off some more of the stall decks on the channel in the next couple of videos. So look forward to that, or don't look forward to it if you are not a fan of stall, just like any other sane person. And yeah, I'll see you all next time. This is Ben from YGO from Zero, signing off.